Good afternoon, everyone. I should also probably call Sandra to join us, yeah, for BioSolar. So thank you all for the very interesting presentations. It was very nice to hear from you directly after reading the proposal some time ago, and to see also how many different projects came to this call after, like, from the one theme that was introduced, then how many different ideas have been defined. So I know that we have limited time, so I will open the floor to questions from the audience, if you have any. Okay, there is one there. Please mention in the beginning if you have a general question or you are asking from a specific project.
Okay, so it's a sorry, it's a general question. There are some projects that I noticed that the beneficiaries are more broad. I would say some are more local populations. But to all of you, I think I will use the same question. If any of these projects came from demands from the beneficiaries or local stakeholders, are any of these projects, the result of something that people were asking for, or are they more about what we wanted to find out?
I can at least answer for, so at least this project, the INSALS, it was also, many other projects were running in the sub-Saharan Africa and at least in southern part of Africa. So it was also stakeholders' request to work on this aspect that nobody has done work earlier.
Sorry. Yes, I can also reply that our project is based in another project that was with 7 different cities across the world. And then that's where we got to know the cities that are participating now. And then we saw that there was this need together with the cities. So we have a lot of, not a lot, but we have the participation of 2 local governments as partners. So we expect to have more impact in this with the direct beneficiaries. Yeah, I think he was first.
Okay, so in our project, we try to solve crop protection issue related to plant health. And, most farmers rely on chemical pesticides to protect their plants. And from many of us working with crop protection, we try to promote biological control and so on all the time. But the farmers, in my experience, they are very often complaining to those of us working with biological control that, okay, it's nice that you come up with environmentally friendly solutions, nice, but they don't work, they're too bad. And I can just agree with them. Very many of the biocontrol products on the market are not good enough. We need to come up with something that is not only environmentally friendly, but also something that is working. So that's basically the starting point for our project. We want to come up with something that is not only so good, but really works.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what I also mentioned in my pitch was that this question about, like, what are the potential risks of urban green areas for mosquitoes and or vector-borne diseases in general, that's really a question that's I mean, repeatedly coming up in my mailbox, because people find me and they know that I could possibly give some insight into that question. But also municipalities are sort of dealing or even struggling with that particular question. So they're also looking for opportunities like, okay, how can we address that question? And also, how can we implement or design our environment in such a way that we create this balance between biodiversity on the one hand and potential mosquito-borne disease risk on the other. So it's coming from different directions that we, and based on that, we are trying to address that question in this particular project.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, for our project it was the same. The topic, because there is a lot of focus on using halophytes for salt-affected lands, but the topic of biodiversity decline was first asked by farmers who told me, and this is empirical evidence. So we're going to put a number to it. They asked us, okay, we've noticed that this is what is happening, and can we find a question? Can we find an answer to this question? And I guess the good for our side, the positive is that these are lands that are slowly being abandoned. So farmers really want to have a solution for how to manage these lands that otherwise they will have to abandon. So this is something, so we're lucky, this is a question they asked us, and they're working with us for all our field sites across from, like, again, Tunisia to the Netherlands. We have farmers working with us to find this saline nature-based solution, and also for the tool that they're going to use, because again, we have a solution, but how to use it and all that. So hopefully we can find that is something they've asked us. So yes, started from stakeholders.
Thank you for the very good question. From our part, the motivation came from actually one of the companies that was interested in attracting sustainable finance. And I think there is enough funding in the market that is looking for rigorous ways to verify that their money is being invested in a way which is sustainable. As of last year, every third euro or dollar globally was invested in one of the sustainable finance solutions. So there are many definitions, various degrees of what you call green finance, sustainable finance, ESG integration, a lot of these strategies, but we are missing on rigor in measuring biodiversity. And I think this is where we need to step in and offer good monitoring. And then we heard that in the morning, a lot of monitoring, and then pairing it up with the right solutions. So
thank you. Maybe we can move on to the. Okay. Maybe quickly so we can have more questions.
Yeah, I'm from an area with a very large wine district with covering about 20,000 hectares, and with a lot of impacts of agriculture on the environment, because under the climate change context, soil tillage is increasing more and more as a solution, a potential solution respect to drought. But this open more frequency of landslide and erosion with extra cost, public cost for recovery in this case. So NBS can represent a solution for limiting the impacts. We are probably far away with respect to developing a system for paying for growers for ecosystem services, but this is on the line. And in addition, abandoning herbicide application that in some case can promote selection of resistant species requires solutions, and growers, especially open-minded growers, are asking for that.
Okay, thank you. Do you also want to make a quick comment, and then we move to the next question?
Yeah, well, perhaps well, I would say that at Embrace we have a strong component of stakeholder interaction, and as such, it's impossible to establish some sort of transdisciplinary program if you don't have previous collaboration and a well-established coalition with the local stakeholders. So yeah, I guess that's the same for many other projects, but in our case, very often that was the case in our case studies.
Thank you. Any other question from the audience? Otherwise, I will take the time to ask one of the questions that I was thinking about it from the discussions that we had yesterday, but also this morning, that we often talked about it would be good that we can continue with this nature-based solution. So if the project can leave after the time frame of the project officially ends. But at the same time, many nature-based solutions actually need time to become effective and to see the impact that they really can make. and have. So I was wondering if any of you having projects that you are implementing nature-based solutions, how would you address this challenge? I mean, how would you show the impact of your project if the time is not enough to get to the result you want? And then if not, how can you ensure that you anticipate or create mechanisms that your project can go on? I know it's not easy, but...
Yeah, I can give it to you in a moment. So on the one hand, as I was saying before, perhaps grounding your research well within the local realities to try to reach an impact relatively soon. And then as part of a transdisciplinary process, there is a process of ownership of the research that somehow is transferred from perhaps a co-ownership at the beginning to at the end, it belongs to the people or the stakeholders with whom you are collaborating who will somehow carry out, because as you say, the 3 years is little time. Yeah.
Yeah, and we are going to develop a tool in biosolar with Helena that would be interesting to investment banking when they make decisions on new solar farms so that they can implement biodiversity concepts that are developed in this project. And of course, there's too little time to really see the result of that. So we're going to have to make them convinced that it is going to work based on science and data. But we're also going to work with the local communities. So this is something that also will strengthen the whole project.
In our InSalsa project, we are planning to establish this community-based living labs. And this is in collaboration with our African partners. We actually expect these living labs because we build infrastructure, so those will be absorbed into the local or host organizations, and we hope it will continue. And that was our main goal in the project.
Yeah. For us, it was more like building on experiences that are already running and building on their already produced knowledge. And then we found these very interesting cases in which there is a very nice dynamic between local governments and the communities in urban gardening. And then they have already been monitoring biodiversity, for example. So I think, and it's important to also acknowledge that they are the owners of this knowledge, and then they will be the users of the knowledge and the ones to continue with the legacy of the project. And we are only going there to learn and maybe to suggest some improvements because we have some theoretical knowledge, but they have the practical knowledge. So I think that's a very important part of our project.
Okay, Nestor.
Thank you. So I think it's a very interesting question because in our case, we've been monitoring the airborne biological particles over decades. And basically the funding now is what is allowing us to have this push to make it as a handy tool that can be adaptable, can be changed during the time, and it will be in hands of authorities and stakeholders. So it's we may not see the immediate results, but evidently we will be able to keep working with this. So it's a dynamic process.
Any other questions?
So as I have mentioned, we have a network of 8 demo farms, and the different partners as part of our project have different background. For instance, there are 2 groups working in viticulture since long time, especially on floor management. And so we have considered as part of Soil Divine different demo sites that were already involved in live projects or regional projects since, for instance, in Italy, 2016 or 2020. And so in this case, we can consider that NBS are almost mature. And so we can assess some mid to long-term effects of NBS until the end of the project, so 2016, 2027. And in parallel, other partners, especially from Portugal and Slovenia, are implementing by this year the DNBS. And so we will be able to assess in tandem some mid to long-term effects of NBS and the, early changes induced by this kind of floor management in other sites.
I think we also have a question from the online audience.
There is one question, concrete question on biosolar. And the question is, what kind of solutions you intend to apply to make solar bio? Could you list them? What are the typical negative social issues expected? And how bankers are going to contribute positively?
Elena and
Right.
Sandra.
Thank you. This is a yes. I think a multidisciplinary question requires expertise from the two sciences. So I'll start with the obvious part for me, the economics of it. If we have the right structure for measurements and in the climate space, we have the SBTI, the Science Based Targets Initiative. We're missing something similar in the biodiversity space. And if we set that protocol, that will ensure some credibility to attract the green funding, whether it's in the form of lending or investment. So it can be both. Should you?
I could just explain something about the social aspects that didn't really come through in the presentation. We're going to conduct citizen science on some of the mammals and birds, especially birds. So we will be getting public engagement because they'll be monitoring them. And the reason for that is because if we go and do some tests now and then and inventories, we won't be able to catch all the different animals that we'll be passing through. So that's going to be organized by the Spanish contingent of our collaboration. And then in addition, the Slovenian, right, Igor, he's from Slovenia, he's going to organize questionnaires and the social aspect with the local communities, because we need to get them engaged. And we are going to have workshops also with stakeholders and including them, the local community. Yeah, otherwise, because there has to be social acceptance. If you're going to install a new solar park, there's a lot of resistance, at least in our country, for these wind parks and so on. So you need to talk to the people who live there and who farm the land and who have lived there for generations. And that is absolutely essential. So that's how we're going to work.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So I think we have 2 minutes left. So I think very quickly, maybe all the presenters, if they want to say maybe, I don't know, the most challenging part or the most exciting part of your project you're waiting for. So maybe you can reflect on that.
Yeah, the most exciting is perhaps...
So maybe I can add on top of your question is also if you can answer what is really needed, the essential step to be taken to mainstreaming a successful NBS. So I don't know if you can answer both at the same time as you will do on table.
Yeah, so take the 2 minutes in mind and let's,
Yeah, perhaps one of the challenges is how to generalize the case study findings to other contexts. I think in our case, the cross-comparison design can help to identify some commonalities that then can perhaps be out scale. But yeah, that's perhaps one of the biggest challenges.
And in our case, the solar park idea about farmlands is that they'll be converted into grasslands. And this is something that is very particular for our southern European partners, Portugal and Spain. But we also have Poland and Sweden, and it's not really obvious there that we'll have the same sort of landscape. It will be doing comparisons across the 4 countries.
Okay, from our project, probably the most challenging part is the upscaling approach, because we know we have the systems, but to upscale the system in the landscape, because in most of the cases we have a really intensive system, and using an extensive approach like a nature-based solution and informing the farmers and adapting to new system can be the most challenging part of the project.
Concerning challenges, I guess broad stakeholder engagement and policymakers' involvement in the discussion and co-development is important. And what is exciting to me is putting the focus on the soil management, sustainable soil management in vineyard. In the past, it was considered like the floor to drive up and down for spraying, for doing different agronomic operations. And now soil is a very complex community, and there's this idea that is growing.
So for us, the main challenge, I guess, because we're going to co-create with stakeholders, the NBS from Tunisia to Netherlands, Poland to Portugal. So we have very different, and we need to monitor this and observe biodiversity, natural environment. So that's going to be, but hopefully through a common monitoring protocol, that should be. But the exciting part, I think, for us will be to develop this capability assessment, the land capability assessment. What can I put in my lands to be sustainable in the long term? So, and which for marginal landscape is very, very important. So, yeah.
Thanks for the question. I would like to zoom out a little bit. In science in general, it's very important, I think, that we try to find general laws and not just focus so much on the peculiarities of our particular study systems or so. So I think that an important thing is to think about how can I make this solution that I've been helping to develop, how can I enable that nature-based solution in many places, in many areas, and so on, and not just focus on my little project here.
In our case, in InSalsa project, we have 2 living labs or community-based labs. So to adopt the tools that we will develop to test this beneficial microbes, it is different. So we might need to tweak it a bit. But we also see not as a challenge, but as an opportunity that we could maybe upscale to other parts if we manage to adapt two different living labs tools.
I think in our case, the main challenge is transdisciplinarity, because we have in the project different disciplines, and the nature-based thinking is also, it requires a holistic approach and transdisciplinarity. But also transdisciplinarity not only within the researchers, but also transdisciplinarity with other disciplines, and understanding that we as researchers, we cannot cover everything. We need communicators, for example, who really know how to communicate, how to send ideas out there. So it's something that we're working also in my department. Yes, and trying to get this, overcome the science and communication barriers, because we know how to talk about ourselves, about our things ourselves, but we don't know how to deliver messages to the people. So, yeah.
When it comes to our project, the most challenging part will be the development of harmonized and standardized sampling protocols, because we're going to sample vectors and biodiversity in the 4 different countries, Netherlands, France, Spain, and Morocco. So that will be one of the challenges. And the most exciting part will be, of course, catching mosquitoes in all these different places. And be aware, you were in the botanical garden yesterday, and I already saw the first active female mosquito flying around. So be aware.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to answer, but I think in our case, the most challenging part is that the cities where we are sampling are very different. So it's going from Trento, Évora, Vienna, Gothenburg, and Copenhagen. Size, diversity, and so on. So it's the main challenge, because we cannot come up with one solution. So it will have something that is adaptable and can be applicable to other cities in Europe and in the world, of course. And the most exciting part, I think, for us is that we really are in contact with stakeholders, with authorities, and the answer is very positive. So my feeling is that the most exciting part is we are going to really reach the public, so that we will have an impact.
Okay, we start with you and we finish with your project.
So for Biodiversity to Drugs project, we will face 2 major challenges. The first one will be to understand and to anticipate which natural peptide will be able to bind on which therapeutic target. This is a very challenging point, and also in 3 years project to identify the next drug.
Okay. So thank you so much for presenting and sharing your excitement and challenges, and we look forward to hear more about your project in the next coming years and hopefully communicating with us and other stakeholders the results. We have been a bit over time, so I think we can close here and yeah, I leave to you.